G'day. Now it's working. G'day. This video is to explain the rot and the treachery that is set in this country, where someone who's not even elected lawfully, doesn't swear the lawful oath, can go overseas and pretend they have the right to sign us up to something they never asked us about. And it goes way back into discussions and papers and statements made by ex-Chief Justice of the High Court with an input from someone who knows nothing and to me in relation to what she was talking about. And I bring it up because she's always there giving her version of what she thinks we should believe. No politician can leave this country and sign us up to anything. They need our permission. Otherwise, they're not serving us, meaning they're serving their political parties, meaning treason. Now, looks how it started. This book, written by Yardley, Political Treason, Treachery and Sabotage, 100% correct. Everything in it. What resulted from this treason, treachery and sabotage was this absolute book of nonsense treason copyrighted to political parties who think they have the upper hand and don't. Most of them are either run by the Fabian Society, the Freemasons, or both, neither of which has any standing in our country. If they form these groups and they swear their oath of allegiance to these groups, they're sitting in blatant treason. How do I know? The Constitution says so. Section 44. Now, on the other hand, we have our true system. Where did our true system come from? This is a public record, a Hansard, if you will, of every constitutional convention which led to us having a constitution. The Constitution's actually in here. So when somebody says this is not the Constitution, they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes with their lies. Isn't that right, Ann Toomey? Because that's what you tried. Didn't work. As a result of those conventions, we ended up with this. The Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, proclaimed and gazetted on the 1st of January 1901. But as of the 9th of July 1900, when this was put in place as an act of the British Parliament, the old entities known as the Australasian Council and the colonies ceased to exist. What effect did that have on this country? Huge effect. Simply and plainly, because this act was granted to us from the parliaments in Britain, Great Britain and Northern Ireland if you want, doesn't matter, it's where it is. This gives us permission to have our constitution based on this. Now, with this, Clause 7 wiped out every law, act, statute and everything else that was put together by all the colonies, except the ones that complied with Section 51 of the Constitution. How do we know? Because this says so. So does the Constitutional Conventions. That's what they decided. Could those colonies, before Federation, where they didn't exist, produce an act? No. So where did Western Australia get the Constitution Alteration Act 1899? It was fraud and treason by John Forrest. Slimy little maggot he was. He got his. Now, this book was produced. The Constitution, as altered the 31st of October 1986. This goes with the Green Constitution. It's a load of garbage. It's got bits missing and a couple of fraudulent statements. So people have asked, what have I been doing about it? I actually have been doing a lot where you can't see because I don't run out and say, oh, look at me, I've done this, I've done that, and I don't care if I never get recognition for what I'm doing. It's not what I'm doing it for. It's not what I'm doing it for. Adrian, yeah, I'm well. Branca, I'm doing well. The thing is, what are we doing? A couple of weeks ago, I put out, my wife typed it up, I wrote it, a challenge. And it was a strong challenge, and it is one. It is actually in the form of a statement to go with another document, which I didn't put out. Why? Because I'd get the same old thing. G'day, Dawn. The same old thing. What are you doing? And that's what I continually get. What are you doing? Well, this is what we're doing. This. It says, so you know, and you'll get a chance to get this. I'll tell you where to get it, and the other one as well together. Lawful challenge to the jurisdiction of all courts in the Commonwealth of Australia. Why? Because none of them are lawful. The Green Constitution and their Australia Act and all their garbage wiped it out. And the 1979 High Court Act wiped out the High Court, along with all the rules. So I'll read this to you so it's clear, and then you'll get a copy which you can download off this video. The Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK and the Commonwealth Constitution as proclaimed and gazetted are the highest authority law in this country and must be obeyed. That's a fact. The Commonwealth Constitution clearly states that the Constitution is above both Houses of Parliament and they must obey it. Reference page 676 of the Red Book, Quick and Garran. They put it together, they know what it said. The same page states the Parliament is not supreme, and the very essence of federation is that must be so. The Parliament, like everyone else, is subject to the law and must obey it. The purported courts, including the Magistrate Court Geraldton, are registered companies. ABN for Geraldton is 705985194443. WA Police Service, Western Australian Police Department, ABN 91724684688. What originated from them visiting the property where I am is they decided to charge the person with an unlawful development. He didn't develop anything, but it doesn't matter. All lawyers, by way of their oath to the Bar Association, are unlawful because of Section 44 of the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK. The Bar Association Act is to the City of London, whether they like it or not. Section 51, subsection 20 states, foreign companies and trading financial corporations form within the limits of the Commonwealth. HCA 11 in 2015 defines trading corporations, and that decision is binding on the courts, judges and the people of every state. Is that clear? Now, if you've got an ABN number and you provide services for money, which the councils all do, according to them, the Parliament does, WA Police Service, they want money for everything they do, they're trading companies. Don't care what they say. They're trading companies according to the High Court. This decision captures the entities above into this High Court decision and the Fair Work Act 2009 by way of 109 of the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK and the Commonwealth Constitution derived from it. There is no federal law that allows trading companies to administer law and control land, nor is there any authority for the parliaments in the Constitution to run trading companies and make us pay for the running of them. So then we went to the origin of a grant in fee simple. The origin of a grant in fee simple title, the Abolition of Tenures Act 1600. In 1600, the Crown, at that time King Charles II, could no longer afford the upkeep of land and services to his subjects. Therefore, he abolished the old tenures and allowed a statute law to be enacted for the sale of the lands of the Crown. All of it belonged to the Crown of England, as it does here. You want to argue that, this is not the forum to even have an attempt at it. The officers of the Crown had then to make entries in the Registrar of Lots. The title deed that insured carried a volume number, folio number, and the lot numbers. A grant-in fee simple title deed. All land in Australia was sold into private hands through a grant-in fee simple title. The new owner of this title is required to hold a deed. The original deeds were signed by the Governor of the state after first determining that all purchase monies had been paid. The reason I bring up all these points because they prove that the maggots in this state have stolen your land. That's all they are. They're parasites. And all the politicians are all parasites, kowtowing to an entity known as the United Nations, the WHO, the WEF, and all the other lunatics who think they have the right to override the will of the people in all things. And this is what it read. Now know ye that for and consideration of the said sum for and on our behalf, well and truly paid into the Treasury of our said state before these presents are issued and of all and singular the premises, we have granted and for all our heirs and successors do hereby grant unto the said and your name, heirs and assigns, subject nevertheless to the several and respective reservations hereinunder contained, that we do reserve unto us our heirs and successors all minerals, nothing else. The Governor signed, in witness thereof, I have hereunto signed my name and affixed my seal. This is out of English law. It's called Chalice Real Property, 2nd edition. This then is a very lawful instrument of law, a contract with, not just with the Crown via the seal, but with the actual sovereign majesty, his, her, heirs and successors. You don't like that? That's the law. This then is a very lawful instrument. As I said, this instrument is a deed in trust with the current King Charles III as the successor to the Crown. It is a trust in inheritance and a trust in equity. That means that the act of purchase of a grant-in fee simple title carries the right to pass on the estate through an inheritance, a right protected by our Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK. Again, law. A trust in equity is a purchaser's right to retain his equity or equality of value in his land. So when the Federal Parliament requires the resumption of the land the Crown has sold, it must be under just terms and compensation. The only authority for anybody to resume land is federal. They can't give it to the states. If it did, it would be in the Constitution. It's not. They don't have it. End of the story. No more lies. There are 4 elements of ownership that are carried in a fee simple title deed. The purchase of any structures or buildings on the land. Tenements. The right to build any structures of any kind on the land. Massages. The right of ownership of all natural elements on the land to an indefinite extent above the land, which is to outer space, and to the very centre of the earth, corporeal hereditaments. You cannot take that out, so if anyone has, put it back. That's the law. Not yours, ours. The right to use the land in any manner, including to waste the land. In brackets, waste being lawful term to take back, to bare rock or destroy. Incorporeal hereditaments. The rights do not include, and I make this clear, ownership of any water on the land, as water cannot be owned, as it is movable. You have only the use of the water while it is on the land. So, welcome to the real world, you idiots in Federal Parliament. You sold something that wasn't yours. It belongs to everybody. And that does not include yous, only when you serve the people or have your own property. Till then, you stole the water rights, so nobody can benefit from stealing, and that includes China or anybody else. You do not own the water. Doesn't matter what you think. The other thing doesn't include the right to trespass on another's land without his permission. No, you can't trespass if you go on there with a warrant issued under the Crown. But there's a process for that and you're not adhering to it. And that includes the donkey who came here with a piece of paper saying a warrant to enter and there was nothing on it. No signature, no name of a JP, no affidavit, no statement of material facts. He came here on false pretences, lied and brought 5 people with him. 5 company employees known, they're actually public officers claiming to be police officers and they're not. Proprietorship of a grant in fee simple title. This is the lawful term of our ownership. We are proprietors of fee simple grant. We who purchased it, nobody else, which means we operate the title during the period of our ownership. Our proprietary rights are often called natural rights. What I'm trying to convey to you, lying thieves and traitors that sit in our parliament, you have no control over our land. You claim the right to pass acts and statutes and rules, but you don't have a governor. You don't have a governor general. So who signed off on them? Nobody. That good old bloke named Nobody, or Billy Boyang, that character. Our granting fee simple title deed lists the new owner as a tenant in common. This refers to the fact that we share an interest with the Crown through the reservation of the minerals, nothing else. However, the only right the Crown reserves is that listed on the title deed, which is minerals. There is no authority over land by any parliament purporting to be a government. Now, if you remember, quite often I bring up the fact that Kirby clarified that. He said no parliament by preamble or decision can speak an authority into being when none exists in law. It doesn't matter what it is. They have no authority. They have no power because the power has to have authority, and there's none, so you don't have it. More importantly, we can never own our land under a Torrens title because it does not and never will allow for the ability to inherit, a right which is guaranteed by the King, his heirs and successors, including King Charles III. So, changing our titles to Torrens titles, they weren't always that. That's a lie. You say that, you're a nutcase and a liar. And as for that policewoman in Geraldton that said the state law is above federal law, you're a liar too. You have to know. You are administering law. You have to know the law. You do not know what you're talking about. You are lying to the people. Go and read the law. You'll find out both houses of Parliament, both state and federal, are under the Constitution, subject to the law. And federal law overrides state law. No excuses. And you have none. The abolition of Tenures Act 1600, alienation of land, Charles II, AD 1600, at 4, and be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that all tenures hereinafter to be created by the King's Majesty, his heirs and successors, upon any gifts or grants of any manors, land, tenements or hereditaments of any estate of inheritance at the common law, shall be in a force and common soccage only, and not by night service or in capite, and shall be discharged of all wardship, value and forfeiture of marriage, livery, primer, season, ouster, lemain, aid per fair fits, chevalier and per file marrier. Don't ask me what that means. Look it up. Apparently it is Latin. And law, statute, a statute or reservation to the contrary thereof in any wise notwithstanding. In other words, it's clear of any interference at all. Free and common soccage only tells us we do not have any debts attached to our land once we purchase it, regardless of any purported law, statute or reservation to the contrary. No rates, no taxes, no nothing. I don't care what the High Court or any court in this country has ruled. That's a lie. Stop paying them. It's not their money. They're stealing off you, making you pay for the right to live on a land which you bought. You own. Land held of the Crown in fee simple may be assured in fee simple without licence and without fine, and the person taking under the assurance shall hold the land of the Crown in the same manner as the land was held before the assurance took effect. 12 Charles II, C24, the 10 Years Abolition Act 1660, Section 437, tenure. All tenures created by the Crown by way of the alienation of an estate in fee simple shall be taken to be in free and common soccage without any incident of tenure for the benefit of the Crown. Now you're trying to tell us, Mark McGowan and stupid Dodgy Roger, you pair of peanuts, tried to tell you, oh, the Crown still owns it. No, the Crown doesn't. Doesn't. Wake up. You're stealing. You're thieves. And this law proves you are thieves. Australia Act doesn't exist. We've never had a lawful federal parliament. That's in the statement. This Act is Australian law under our Constitution and duplicates the Abolition of Tenures Act 1660 in stating we buy, take, in brackets, and are assured, in brackets, guaranteed our land free of any debts. See? No land tax, no nothing. You have no control over land. Unless it's in Section 51, the federal government doesn't have it. They never had it before Federation. That is a lie, Ann Toomey. There was municipal authorities, and you can have them afterwards. The local government in the Constitution, the red one, is the state parliaments, which you did have before Federation, and they had no right over land. The governor issued titles. That title is issued to you. The original is yours, not some government department. Can they keep records? Yes. In relation to good governance, everybody wants to know who owns the land. And if it's in a government record, it can't be scrubbed by idiots, even though these idiots that call themselves politicians have done exactly that. Alienation means no lawful transfer title to property in real property law. Halsbury's Laws of, or Challis Real Property 3rd edition. With no incidence of tenure means the Crown has no holding or occupying right over the land. Isn't that clear? So why are you, Dodgy Roger, and your maggot people telling us we can't have it? We can't own our land. You'll do what you're told. You can't scratch yourself. We decided that's not rural. No, you didn't. No land is put into urban, rural, or industrial. Why? Because you don't have any right. If we decide we might want to comply with there, that's our business. But whatever we do on our land cannot interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of others. So if we have noise or problems, that has to be rectified. Who by? The owner of the land, not by you clowns. And no, it's not laws of good governance over our land to tell us what to do. That's a lie. Because simply, under the terms of tenure or ownership, which we have, you have no rights. Comprehend that. Can't comprehend it? Well, time for 2 bricks, one either side of your head to wake you up, you morons. You do not have control over our land. You stole mine after I won in court and gave it to a half-wit living on it. He doesn't like me calling him that. Get off my land. You knew it was stolen. And I will get it back. The purported court's only avenue of action is that you or the City of Greater Geraldton or both comply with and file a notice under 78B of the Judiciary Act for the constitutional issue you've raised by stealing land from the people. So if you go to court, you don't do the 78Bs. The idiot sitting on the bench and the state prosecutor or the council or whoever prosecutes you or the lawyers do the 78B. They're the ones that raise the constitutional issue. The Constitution is above both houses of Parliament. And the state constitution only continues, and the states are established and continue subject to that constitution. They have no rights outside of that. Understand that, Ann Toomey? You're wrong. Fix it up, or shut up, one of the two. 78B of the Judiciary Act, and apply to the High Court under Section 40 of that Act. It's your duty to apply to the High Court, not to us. You are the one has to prove jurisdiction, and you can't. You cannot prove jurisdiction because you have none. The imperial law, which covers the Crown's backside, doesn't cover yours. You're not the Crown. Oh, look at that. Western Australia, they produced an entity known as the state. Where's that in the Constitution? Doesn't exist. An act of treason. And guess what, Dodgy Roger? You're involved. You're a criminal. And you people in the unions, time to wake up. They're sending you down the chute to the sewer. They're taking your land that you are working for. The issue of whether you are earning it, how much you're paid and that, is not my problem. We have unions to get better conditions for you people. The government, or the Parliament claiming to be a government, because it's not, are stealing the land that you bought, stealing everything that you own, stealing the very money in your bank, and you're too silly to see it. Wake up. You got control of the wolves. No one's doubting you got that. You've proved you can push people around. But until you sort yourselves out, that stupid bunch of idiots called the Labor Party, Liberal Party, Nationals and Greens, and all the others, are all doing the same thing. Screwing you over, ripping you off and taking everything you own. Has anyone ever successfully challenged them in court? The new rules enabling tenants to have pets, but funny how they still need approval from the landlord. Boo-hoo-hoo. I beat them in court in relation to councils. The magistrate told them, I cannot give you an order over to remove the property off your land. His statement. I cannot give you an order in relation to ownership of the land. I don't have the authority. The magistrate's statement. Why? Because I successfully proved to him he had no authority. Why aren't you listening? Why do you, year after year, I don't want to go to court. No, don't go to court. It's an invitation to go. All this document is for you to put your name where the person is, which council you are under, and the rest send it to them, hand it in to them and say, I'm in your court. Prove jurisdiction. The Constitution, and I'll clarify that in the Red Book, Chapter 3, Section 76, page 795, the fourth paragraph said, if you exercise authority throughout the Commonwealth of Australia, that's where we are, the onus is on the person who exercised it to show where in the Constitution that authority comes from. If it's not there, they don't have it. Why? Because they're there to serve the people, not their political parties, those lying, thieving, filthy traitors that think they have rights over you and your land and your kids and everything else. They have no rights. These people that preach birth certificates and licences and all that, I saw what that young bloke said to the guy and he got a heap of infringements. Boo-hoo. What did he gain from that? Nothing. You are fiddling with minor offences. People ring me up and say, oh, I got a speeding fine, what should I do? Be nice to your parents. Stop speeding and pay the fine. Because by the time you get in court, the vultures have come around and it's going to cost you between $6,000 and $70,000 to fight the liars. They're going to lie, cheat and steal, inflate an hourly rate. Can you go to school for 3 or 4 years, to university for that time and demand $400, $500, $600 an hour? No, you can't. It doesn't matter what you do. If one man's time is worth a certain amount, unless you do something extraordinary, and certainly not lawyers and judges or magistrates, they do not earn that money. That's nonsense. And certainly the politicians don't earn a cent of what they earn, because the Constitution, they get paid an hourly rate for the time they sit there. Nothing else. Nothing else. That's a fact of law. Now I'll finish this. The reason being, if you have no control of the people on their land the reason being is you have no control of the people on their land until you prove jurisdiction and authority. You can't do it, like I just said. As you are aware, the Constitution stands as supreme law, and you have several huge issues since Western Australia never put its lawful state constitution, 1889, in place at Federation. And you know that. That's why you withdrew the charge against me, because you wouldn't put it to a jury on a voir dire to prove which of the constitutions were correct. You know what the word means, and I'm clagged out if I can spell it, but who cares how it's spelled? As a voir dire is a case to prove a point of law, and the point of law is which of the two constitutions are valid. The unlawful one with 32 sections missing, which fails to comply with 106, or the one that is a letters patent and complies with 106. Simple for the jury, 2-minute job. You're wrong, get out, you're traitors. End of the story. Until this happens, there has never been, nor can be, a lawful federal parliament, because each state puts up its representatives. So elections, like referendums, are state by state. Majority of people in a majority of states doesn't count. It doesn't happen then. You have the right to elect one person once for the Senate and one person once for the House of Representatives. They represent the whole state. You don't like that? Read your Constitution. It's clear. Read the Electoral Act, which is imperial law. Courts are administrative courts, being statutory, not constitutional law. That's why they're unlawful, Karina, yeah. That's why they're unlawful. They're not administrative courts, they're courts of record. That's why the lecture by Chief Justice French in relation to signing outside agreements is nonsense. Because he's saying, the courts are bringing in little parts of those things. They can't bring any of it in. If it doesn't comply with the Constitution, all they've got the right to do is shut up, be an adjudicator between the law and the people in the case that's before them, nothing else. They're courts of record. They record the law, the people, and the issue that's before them, and make a judgment only if there's two or more. No single judgment can sit in judgment of anybody. Habeas corpus says so. Is that an act? Yes. Is it law in this country? Absolutely is. Attached to your invitation to attend your purported court is a statement outlining all the treason and fraud placed on the people who are the Commonwealth. Dated, signed, and everything else. That is the document. That document will be on the top of this video with a PDF, so you can access it along with the other document. You put the two together and hand it to the magistrate and say, I'm challenging your jurisdiction. When are you going to bring this before a court? Only problem is there is no lawful courts in this country. So where do you take it? That'll be the subject of another video, because we're actually looking into that, and that is going to happen. And you peanuts are going to stand trial, because you peanuts are liars, traitors, and frauds. And Penny Wong, stop going overseas, you're a moron. You can't sign any agreement overseas. You want to put that before any court, put it to the court. I'll walk in there with the Constitution and show you where you shut your mouth, because you are not serving the people. You are serving a political party that's sitting in treason. I'm not playing games, I'm stating a fact. You are a liar and a fraud. Albanese, you're an outright liar. You've been caught out that many times. But the rest of you are liars too. All you're doing is you want more and more money. Now it's up to you people. Stop paying them money. Where does our pension come from? Not from tax. Well, it actually does. 7.5%. Everybody's been paying since January the 1st, 1946. Fact, yes. Did they ever take it off? No. Are we going to get a tax reduction? Albanese says we are, but we aren't. We pay for a pension. The Constitution is clear in Section 51. You have to provide pensions. Invalid pensions? Yes. Old age pensions? Absolutely. It isn't a charity. And the addition that I showed you to the Constitution, in fact, I'll refer to it so that you know which section I'm referring to. Yeah, it's 5123, but that's a different issue. But we'll come back to it. But this is a piece on 5123, invalid and old age pensions. 5123A, the provision of maternity allowances, widows' pensions, child endowment, unemployment, pharmaceutical, sickness and hospital benefits, medical and dental services, but not so as to authorise any form of civil conscription, benefits to students and family allowances. These are what we, by referendum, told you you're going to provide from our taxes. Not from tax on our land. You collect trillions every year from fuel tax. You don't need any more money. That's obvious by the fact you're giving it away all the time. The service and execution throughout the Commonwealth of the civil and criminal process and the judgments of the courts of the states. Time you realise that includes locking up traitors. Oh, look at that. You'd have to lock yourselves up, you bunch of traitors. So that's all I've got to say. You have a nice rest of your Sunday. And to all those politicians that are developing a huge dose of hemorrhoids, I hope it hurts. Stop dribbling the nonsense out of your mouth. You're all sewer rats. You're thieves, you're liars and criminals. That's all you are. Time to wake up. The people have had their guts full of you. And we're not pulling up with your garbage any longer. Do we have the right to do something about it? Yes, we do. And the remedy is there. Block the courts, because they can't operate till they prove jurisdiction. They're going to try every lie they can. I've seen some of the lies come out of the mouth of magistrates. Oh, superior court of rule. There's no superior courts. That's why I've challenged the whole lot. There is none. Get rid of the High Court rules. Get rid of the High Court Act, separation of powers between the Parliament and the High Court, executive, legislature, they, to a degree, work in with each other in relation to putting forward the will of the people, but the courts are separate altogether. Separate them back. Get out of there. Brandis admitted, when Cullerton put it to him, that the government makes rules that run the High Court, and they block your case going into the High Court. But there is a remedy. There's a remedy because you've registered all your companies overseas. It gives us a remedy in another country. Have fun, because we're coming after you and you are going to pay. And we get rid of you. But as for you thieving ratbags in the councils, you're going to lose everything you've got. Your houses, your cars, your properties, family businesses, you can't hide them away because the act of treason means you lose everything. Everything your family has goes to the people that you stole it from. And as for that little specimen sitting on my land, you're going to jail. Or hand my property back. Your choice. You can laugh, you can run around your little Freemason mates and say and tell lies to a couple of old guys who tried to give me a hard time in the shop the other day. They're lies. You tell them, oh, you've put all these improvements on the property. You had no right to be there. I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you to move on my property. The council have no authority over it, never did. Now you've got an even bigger problem because Mark McGowan and Dodgy Roger, the two biggest crooks we've ever had in WA, only second to Burke and a few other fleas, you said If the law says you owe the money, you owe the money. Doesn't matter what the court says. Hang on. What happened to justice? That's what you said, McGowan. That's what you backed up, Dodgy Roger. But guess what? You're going to go broke when you go to jail. You're going to end up with nothing. You think you're so smart. You have been pandering to nutcases from outside this country who think they've got the right to override the people. No, you don't. Why don't you? Because we said so. Isn't that nice? Aren't we nice people? We said so. We said so, and we are the Commonwealth. We only gave up particular issues for you to deal with, for us, because you're being paid to do it. It's just a job for you. You earn nothing apart from that job. And as for your outlandish pensions, they're going to stop. How are you going to have it when you've got no money? Stop allowing them to put all their lovely little agreements together with the companies outside of this country. We didn't elect any of those fleas. None of those have any sanity whatsoever. They're brain dead fools. You know, people say, I don't believe in God. Time you did. You know why? The WHO does. The WEF does. What's that stupid machine they're building in Switzerland where they're going to open a portal to hell? If hell doesn't exist, what are they doing? Opening up a big volcano in the middle of Switzerland? How are they going to cut that? How are they going to hold it? And what insane moron would allow them to do it? So you just have... Do the bar members employed by these purported state agent council, are they registered under FARA to do business in the Commonwealth? Probably. But it doesn't matter if you are. I don't care less what they're registered with. They are with FARA, believe me. But in what position, I don't know. And you've got the right to sue them, US Department of Justice, through FARA. So everybody have a lovely day. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Sunday thinking I've given you politicians a big dose of hemorrhoids and I hope it hurts. Have a nice day.